Welcome. This is Deborah Leanne, and you have joined us for the Regenerative and Resilient Leader. And first of all, I just want to start off by asking you to think about what energy efficiency means to you. And we hear a lot of buzzwords now describing energy efficient vehicles, appliances, um, but not as much when it comes to describing our energy management system, our personal energy management system. So think about energy efficiency for yourself and what that would feel like and how that would make a difference in the way you show up in the world, in the way you lead, in the way you love, in the way you live your life. And then bring to mind what sustainable productivity means to you. Um, in terms of thinking of how we are balancing, if there is such a thing, how much outflow of energy and inflow of energy. If we think about it in food, it's a little bit easier. What do we intake so that we can expend the caloric energy to do what we want to do in the world? And do we get enough sleep and rest to balance the output, the way that we serve? And the thoughts of sustainable productivity is we don't want to burn out ourselves, our team, our energy, our resources in working too much, too hard, too long at a very fast and high pace. I think for a long time, we as humans were trying to keep up with our computers, and they can be on for 24 hours a day. We are not designed to do that, especially for any length of period of time. And we need updates, and we need downtime, and we need regenerative time. And that brings me to, how do you define regeneration? I think in terms of a leadership style, are we thinking about the future, about how our actions, our thoughts, words, deeds, how our energy system is aligned in our interactions with others, that is regenerative, that is building and sustaining and nourishing what is emerging as well, what is coming. So in terms of thinking 7 generations ahead, like the Native American peoples do, we tend to think about what's the right thing to do in this moment because we have all the resources we need, which has been true. And we're starting to realize that that's not always the case. So how we want to start off this conversation today is about regenerative and resiliency in leadership styles. And to notice for yourself how much energy you are expending and how much you're allowing yourself to receive in terms of support, in terms of nourishment, in terms of downtime, recreational, recreational, breaks during the day, as well as a vacation, but more often than just a once a year vacation. And allowing ourselves to notice who allows us to be that way. Where do we feel the most comfortable in being able to say, at this time, I need some support, I need some help. I could use somebody to bounce this idea off of, or I will get back with you, but it probably won't be till tomorrow because I'm going to go and handle this other thing for my family or myself or my health, or, that we're starting to see the superstars in the tennis world, Naomi Osaka and oh, who was the gymnast that just recently took a break and came back and came in first in her uh, gymnast um, tournament. And as we move into these spaces of being authentic and true and embodied in our truth, it allows us to operate in a slower pace that is more energy efficient, that is more sustainable and productive, as well as regenerative. That leads me to the other half of the topic today, which is about resiliency. And if I think about resiliency, we started talking about it a lot more during the time of COVID because the amount of anxiety due to the uncertainty and the fears that were rampant, running, and raging all around us was, how do I manage to be resilient? How can I bounce back from the heaviness, um, the complete having to redesign our workflow or our workspaces or our um, how do we manage household and working from home in the same space, especially if we have little ones that were at home going through their schooling. There was a lot of things that needed to be redesigned and quickly. We didn't have a template. We didn't have a manual on how to do all of that. And it forced many of us into constant problem solving mode. We didn't get a chance to operate from a place of resilience because we were constantly exhausted. So, how do we operate in a way that is regenerative and resilient, where we can bounce back more quickly, where we feel more confident in our abilities to lead in a way that makes sense and in a way that is healing to not just others, but to ourselves? So there's a feedback loop that what we're putting out in the world is also nourishing to us. And we're continuing to have that kind of infinity loop feeding all of the parties involved. So that's our topic for today. And I will keep this to a minimum because we aren't going to have the breakout rooms and the discussion, because I've kept this very quick for the first one. And then as we move into getting into more practice mode of putting these into practice, we'll do that where we actually go into breakout rooms and practice some different ways of operating in these ways. So now that I've defined what it means to be regenerative and resilient as a leader, I would like to move into a couple of quotes. And one of them has to do with, it's by Alan Watts. And I so love this. It's, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. And what I've been discovering over and over again, the more work I do in the somatic intelligence of leadership, is as we start realizing where we're clenching and holding down and tightening up, we are not allowing the natural energy flow within our bodies. We're not allowing the brain waves and the heart intelligence to be connected to all parts of our body. We aren't able to experience our full wisdom and all of the helpful hormones that are in place to support our system in being its highest and best. When we operate from just adrenaline rushes only, the freeze, the fight, the flight kind of chemicals, that is very depleting. That is an energy loss, if you will. What we want to start noticing is quicker, more quickly. Oh, there's my shoulders, there's my jaw, there's my tension, there's my eyes narrowing. Each of those somatic tendencies are a reminder that your reactivity is coming into play, that fear is beginning to take hold of your body. And then it gives you an opportunity to change that, So as we start becoming more aware, we can go, oh, I can soften that. Oh, I can open my chest. That way I can breathe better, get more oxygen to the brain. Everything works. All my systems are operating much better when I'm in that space. So joining with the dance and operating in a way that is um, with change versus fighting change and trying to eliminate the chaos of our lives. We can't. That's not the way it works. So to talk about an agenda today, I want to just let you know that we're going to start with a centering practice. Um, and then I want you to feel what you're feeling at that time and take a note the difference of how you feel after a centering practice. Then we're going to look at what are some sources of resilience and creativity for you. What allows you to feel and receive inspiration? We're going to look at learning to feel where that stress lies in your body. You're going to have certain places that you notice that are conditioned to tighten, to constrict when fear or stress or something triggers you. Um, Look at discovering ways for your individual resiliency. And that supports your regenerative nature. And the last piece is to find a way to create and support that in an ongoing manner so that it can flow through your life, your personal life, your work life, your community life, your family life, so that everyone gets a chance to, just by being around our energy system, they can relax a little bit more in theirs. So we're making a difference with a rippling effect. That's how the leadership shows up in this. We're going to still be making the same financial and strategic decisions that we do in our daily lives when it comes to our work. But we're also going to be operating with a different operating system, a more resilient one and a regenerative one. So let's do a centering practice. And I just noticed how I had my legs crossed. So I want to invite you to slow down and arrive in this place. Put everything aside. If you're multitasking and have your phone or anything else going on, just uh, put everything out of your hands and place your hands palm down onto your legs. I'm assuming you're sitting. And if you're driving and listening to this, keep your eyes open and just try to slow your breath down. So, what we want to do is we want to allow this first dimension of your centering practice and getting present is to allow your lower half of your body to get heavy, to really notice your bottom in the chair, the support that the chair is giving you. If you'd like, you can place your thumb in your belly button and your hand cupped around your belly and just allow your breath to get all the way down into your belly. This is how we were breathing as babies. We came out learning how to breathe this long, slow, deep into the belly breath. And as life got in the way, our breath tended to get more and more constricted. So slowing it down allows us to lengthen our feet on the floor all the way up to the top of our head, noticing that we can lengthen that spinal cord, allowing there to be space in between the vertebra. Next, we want to, as we're feeling plugged in to our electromagnetic Mother Earth, we can exchange through the senses of in the soles of our feet. Have an exchange process as we plug in to that physical realm. And then extending up and plugging in, almost like we're plugging into the all knowing wisdom of higher consciousness. So we're plugged into the divine and we're plugged into the physical. We are two extensions and one being. That's what's the paradox about us. That's what's so beautiful about being in our bodies at this time. So holding both physical and energetic. Next dimension is our dimension of connectivity. This is where we decide from side to side how much of us we want to have available to extend out into the world. We open our hearts, we open our back, and we open our ears, both sides of our brain. We're bringing both sides of our body fully online. And then we get a chance to set our meter. How much of me is available to interact with the world? Sometimes we need to pull on a little bit, and sometimes we want to be out and big and broad. So this is under your control, your ability to connect with others. And this is also where we do not allow other energy to necessarily invade or take over our space. This is us. This is our domain right here. So from this next dimension, we are going to go to the dimension of here and now. We're not leaning forward into the future, trying to solve something that hasn't even happened yet. And we're not hanging out in the past, living on those old experiences. We're vertical in this moment of now. So our dignity is upheld, our connectivity is upheld, our presence is upheld. And the fourth piece is what makes you smile. What is your purpose? What are you here to do? And we center into that because there's a higher purpose that is a heart's calling that brings a smile to your face. Think in terms of what you're here to shift, change, grow, you want more of, and allow it to warm your belly and warm your heart and bring that warmth up to your smile. These are your unique gifts that are here that only you can give. And that's what makes you uniquely you. So this light that you are needs to be fully available to you as you are tapped into this moment, tapped into your dimension of connectivity, and tapped into your dimension of dignity and value. So those are our 4 dimensions of being centered into that space in this moment and in your purpose. So just take a note. Breathing in to your full dignity and value, breathing in and allowing your purpose and passion to fill you and warm you, and breathing into the present moment are all ways to support you in being fully aligned and available. From this place, so much potential could happen. And it is from this that we want to remember that we are rooted in ways that we have been brought into the world, that we inherited from our family and our culture. But that doesn't mean that it means it informed us as to who we are. It's formed us, or it created the formation of who we are today. But it doesn't mean that is what is our operating system. It's just from there we have a trunk that is all ours, and our actions and service in the world are our branches and the fruit. So let's operate as if we are that tree. That is our way of leading in the world. So resilience, let's define that a little bit more deeply. Operating from a state of aliveness, more sensation in our bodies. Our bodies feel more open and permeable, and we're able to let ourselves and the world in. There's a more openness to us. We're not constricted or holding back or protecting. We can actually imagine a positive future and then take action towards it. And this is a definition from Alta Starr, who was one of my teachers. She's a somatic instructor and coach at the Strozzi Institute, which teaches a lot around somatics for leaders. And what we want to talk about, what gets in the way of restriction. This is something, unfortunately, it gets in the way of resilience. What gets in the way is this restriction. It is our conditioned tendencies that want us or keep us safe, keep us belonging, keep us feeling like we're in control, that we can protect, that we need to protect something, or we need to comply, and lose ourselves in the process and just kind of meld into whatever needs to be done. And we typically have one or two main ones that we do. Controlling and protecting are two of mine, but there's many other people I know that work with the more freeze, which is the compliant. Like, I'll just go where the wind blows because I am afraid to speak my mind, or don't want to rock the boat. I'm afraid people won't allow me to stay and belong in the family or in the community if I really truly show up as myself. So everybody has their own go-tos. And then what we want to do is, where do those live in your body? And think in terms of how you operate under stress. If you could bring something to mind that's not a huge stressful experience, but maybe a recent drive in traffic that was annoying, or news that you received, or something. Feel into your body. If you close your eyes, are you wanting to fight it and move, into it? Or do you want to move away and not think about it and numb it out? Or do you so it's like, do you want to move away? Do you want to move towards it? Do you want to move against it? So how do you handle it? Do you want to fight it? Do you want to flee from it? Or do you just want to forget about it? Once you learn what your typical way of handling stress is, and it could be different with different people and in different situations, but then we want to start noticing, where does that live in your body? And when you're stressed, do you feel like do you get angry? Do you get numb? So look at those tendencies, and then we'll start being curious. Where and how are those showing up in your body? For me, I know for a long time I would curl my shoulders forward. They would go up and forward. It would make it really hard for me to talk. As a kid, I had a lot of sore throats because I don't think I wanted to speak up. The other thing is, it keeps my heart safe, right? When I'm curled forward like this, it's a way of keeping my heart safe. So I remind myself to put my shoulders back and down and to open, so that I'm fully available to love, fully available to experience life. And as you start noticing what your primary conditioning is, your primary place of holding stress or reacting to stress, just write a note about it and allow yourself to experience that in the next days or week or month, to see where it shows up. I started noticing a strange thing when I was playing a timed game on my phone. I would arch my back, and it was like I needed to brace myself for impact. And it came up years after discovering that when I was 7, on my 7th birthday, we were in a car accident, and I braced to hold myself tightly against the seat in front of me in the car. and probably good, so I didn't go through the windshield or something. And I, it's a fear response for me, and it's a way of keeping myself safe. So I noticed that even if I'm not in a life and death situation. I might run out of time and lose a life in my game or something, but it is not any big deal. But my body has stored it as a traumatic event, and it still comes up. So I get to be reminded and get to calm myself down and say, we're all safe here. Everything's fine. There is no danger present in this moment. Resilience is those the contributors that support resilience um, are going to be unique to you. I mean, some of them are kind of universal, but what you want to start making note of is what is it that feeds your resilience? So let's talk about that a little bit. For many of us, it's animals. We can be in nature or around an animal or a pet, um, or in creativity, or even around beauty, going to the art museum, listening to beautiful music, going to a concert, something that opens our the non-logical, the more creative side of the brain, which gets us out of the details and having to look at everything and try to solve problems. The other side of the brain is much more holistic and loves to be fed. So getting into a space where animals can encourage that, or going for a walk in the park and noticing the expanse of the green and the water and wherever you live, by mountains or rivers or just trees, gives us a chance to feed that part of our brain. The other thing is being able to help one another. And this is, we've known for a long time that for those that are people that are depressed, or for teenagers that are suffering from an issue, that if we put them into a place of service or volunteering where they're serving others, it shifts them in a way that is, I guess it takes the energy out of trying to, oh, what's wrong with me, to how can I help somebody else? Oh my goodness, they're having problems too. What if I were to help them? I can make their day by helping carry their groceries. Wow. And then that shot of oxytocin that we're not only creating for that person who we've helped, we get some of that beautiful connecting hormone as well. So there's one of those resilience loops, regenerative loops that we've created by being in service to others. Um, that also can happen by just being on purpose. If we feel we are contributing to making a difference in some way, whether through our work, our family, our community, um, we get that sense of being a part of something bigger. So it's really important to be tapped into that sense of purpose that we found when we were doing our centering, calling upon that. And it doesn't have to be super specific, and it doesn't have to be like saving the world from war, which is so big that it may never, I don't know how that will happen in our lifetimes, maybe. Um, However, how do we allow ourselves um, to tap into what is my unique way of being? What is something that I can do that is unique to me? And I know one of the things that my daughters love and friends love is when I write and share words of affection to them, like write a note, or a thank you note, or call and leave an audio clip, like, or even send an audio message on their text, on their phone. Ways of just letting them know I love them and I'm thinking of them, and this particular thing happened, and I just think that's a really special thing about them. It's one of the ways I know how to let them know I love them. And everybody has different ways. So what is it? It doesn't have to be something huge like, oh, my business is transforming so many leaders every day. I am transforming leaders, but it may not be at the scale that I would like it to be. Yet I know that, but just by me showing up and doing my best, that is a model for others that are looking to do the same thing in their lives. So you got to tap into what is your purpose and then allow it to feed you as you show up and serve in on purpose. Another is spirituality. This is a way to cultivate your resilience, to feed and regenerate your soul, your purpose, and whatever that means to you, tapping into what allows you to feel awe and reverence. There's a new thing now in the wellness community about going for awe walks, AWE. There's noticing what brings awe into your life. In the last month, I had what I was calling Orchid Palooza. I had 6 orchids all blooming at the same time. And every time I walked by that place in my house, it just lit me up with the beauty, with the awe of those they're dormant plants for me much of the year. And then when they bloom, they are just so exquisite for such a long period of time. And they just showed off and did their thing for, well, there's still 3 of them blooming. So it's been like 2 months, 2.5 months now. It still brings me joy. And one of the other ones I have is a sense of feeling connected to a greater source, that interbeingness or interconnectedness, having a place in the world. That is so, so important. So whether it's in your family or in your team or workplace, having that sense of belongingness is amazing. It is a way of building our resilience, reminding us that we're much more than what we're feeling in that moment of anxiety or stress or uncertainty or fear. There's so much more going on that we are also a part of. Knowing that this will not last forever, but that my ongoing life and the breadth of how my span of web of connectivity is continuing to ripple out. And that is something that is bigger than those little fears or discomfort that I'm feeling in that moment. So finding ways that allow you to tap into those places are really important. We want to become a resilience vector. And what do I mean by that? It's like a self-cultivation, and it's this competency to be fully alive inside. I think very often when we're protecting or in a space of stress, of fight, flight, freeze, we shut down our aliveness. And our brain takes over and is like, we're going to die if we don't move or fight or freeze, play dead. So, what we want to do is reverse that. Start noticing what does feel alive in our body. And an easy way is by taking a breath. That is a sense of feeling aliveness. Another could be feeling the air moving on my skin, or the taste of something in our mouth. There's all of our senses we want to bring to a more heightened level. Like, what else can we hear in this moment? The hum of traffic outside, the wind rustling through the trees, some cicadas beginning to sing. Each of those little extra things allows us to feel the aliveness. So really noticing how to cultivate that. By becoming a model of resilience, we encourage and infect others. And this is an opportunity to invoke a sense of possibility, of hope, and that there is movement towards a positive future. Even if it's, in 5 minutes and now we can feel better. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that we can keep moving towards something that is different from this moment. We also want to become aware of what's happening in our bodies so that we can steer clear. And when a self-cultivation practice becomes a way to hide out, we have cultivated ways of numbing that is it's a stress mechanism, and it allows us to protect our overwhelm of feelings. And when we get a lot going on and we get that rush of energy of I don't know what to do in this moment, a lot of times we shut down, we numb out, and we're no help to anyone. So if that were to happen in a very busy day where we needed to make some major decisions in our home or work life, how do we handle that? First of all, by asking, say, I need a minute, and go to the bathroom, step outside, collect yourself, literally collect all of your energy from all the parts. Breathe in, feel all your feelings and your senses and your sensations in your body, and slow down and allow them to be there, and then ask for the help, divine inspiration, whatever you want to call it, from others, to support you in making the decision for what's the next best move. There's no need to act in a hurry, in a haste, unless there's a fire. Then we need that autocratic, decision making. But most of the time, we are in such haste to get out of the discomfort of not knowing that we make quick decisions. And what we're learning over and over again is how important it is to slow down, to feel into all of our awarenesses, all of our wisdom channels, so that we can make really intelligent decisions. And to not be worried about if that intelligent decision doesn't come through in the immediate moment, and to allow it to be. So cultivating these additional practices and ways of allowing yourself to feel connected to something bigger. And the other thing is to notice where you're constricting, because that is an energy block. It is like having your wires kinked, or when the hose is you got the sprinkler out on the grass and you kink the hose, it keeps the water from flowing. We do that all the time in our system. So where can we open, expand, breathe into all of the different parts so that we have all that access of wisdom available to us? I welcome your questions, your thoughts, your insights, and start seeing if some of these things might unravel a bit for you, noticing where you hold constriction, where you can open to more, to invite in more resilience, and how that creates a more regenerative way of being within you.